Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to my deep guide. Well, finally, I'm feeling good enough and well enough to have been able to do some of the tests and most of the tests necessary on the Kobo Elipsa. So this is something that a lot of you have been waiting for, and I frankly have also been waiting for quite a while to actually get my hands on and test properly what the new stuff regarding Kobo Elipsa is, but because of the shoulder injury I wasn't able to do so. So without further ado, let's dive into the Kobo Elipsa. Alright, so first of all, what is Kobo Elipsa? Well, Kobo Elipsa is the latest product from Kobo, and it is a 10.3-inch ePaper note-taking capable e-reader device. So this is a first from Kobo, because this is the first time that they've made a larger device that's a 10.3 inch, and this is the first time that they've made a device that is capable of taking notes. There are a couple of things that differentiate Elipsa from other contenders on the market, and most notably so, those are regarding the note-taking features that it has. So stick around and to see what those features are, how they work, and what does the Elipsa offer. So that's what the Kobo Elipsa is. Now let's check out how does it look. Elipsa is a very clean affair and a very nice design. So it has a completely flush screen, no buttons on the top. We only have this extended side here, which is to be used as a holding side. And the thing that's really good about it is that when you are holding the device like this, it's actually really comfortable. And the reason why it's comfortable is, for me, I think it's three main things. The number one is the ergonomics of the device. Now, if you check out, you will see that the Elipsa is thicker on one side and then gradually tapers down towards the other side here. On the back, we don't have anything to hinder the holding of the device, and the surface that's on the back is nice, matte, and not slippery. So that's something that really helps. I also do like the fact that they've added non-slip rubber pads here, but they have a double function because these rubber feet, they are compensating for that taper difference here, so that when you actually lay the device flat on the floor, that it doesn't wobble. The second thing that really helps the ergonomic side of things, and why Kobo Elipsa is a very comfortable device to actually handle for an extended period of time, be it reading or writing, is the fact that it's very light for a device of this size at only 390 grams. So that's another plus as far as the design goes. And finally, the thing that I really do like is that it's all plastic build. Now, stick with me. Yes, aluminum looks nicer, and metal and glass, they all look nicer. They're shiny and they feel funkier to the touch, but on a real world basis, day-to-day kind of situation, what you want is a device that is flexible, sturdy, and comfortable to use. And I always find the good quality plastic, like you find it here, with very nicely milled edges and all the details finely done, I always find this more comfortable for a long-term use than a metal and a glass device. Build quality is excellent. They always produce really high quality designs, and Elipsa is no exception to that rule. On the thinner side, we don't have anything. We don't have anything on either of the top or bottom sides, and everything is listed here on the thicker side, meaning you have the USB-C port for data communication and charging, have an LED to report the status of the device, and a power button and legal mumbo jumbo on the side, so that it doesn't protrude and it doesn't actually obscure this lovely blue, midnight bluish type of surface on the back. Overall, I really love the design. As I said, the usability is the most important aspect for me, and this one is really usable for extended periods of time. As far as the specifications go, Kobo Elipsa is equipped with the 10.3-inch e-ink screen, and it is the Carta 1200 touch screen. It is running the standard resolution of 1872 by 1404, meaning 227 pixels per inch density. And it also has, like other Kobo modes, because that's a built-in feature for the reader at least, it does have a dark mode which works on EPUBs and PDFs, which is a very nice thing to see. Comes with 32 gigabytes of storage, non-expandable, and it's powered by a quad-core 1.8 gigahertz CPU. I'm not sure about RAM figures because I couldn't really find that, but I assume that it's probably having around 1 or 2 gigabytes of RAM. It has a comfort light, unfortunately only single color, so no dual color LEDs on the Elipsa, which is something that I'm not too fond of. And as far as connectivity goes, it has a Wi-Fi and a USB-C. Now there's an interesting thing here because it's not listed that it does have a Bluetooth, yet when I was digging into the options of the device, I saw that it has some Bluetooth options, but then again, it doesn't have audio capabilities, so I'm not really sure. I'm going to be digging into that a little bit more after the in-depth review to kind of figure out what the Bluetooth is actually for. Again, it doesn't say how big of a battery it has, but I can testify that their claim that it has weeks of battery life, unfortunately, because I've had weeks of recovery time with the shoulder, and I've been pretty much almost exclusively using Elipsa during those weeks for a lot of reading, and it's been doing it on a single charge for 3 weeks now. So yes, the claim of weeks of battery life, absolutely, yeah. The dimensions are pretty standard for a device like this, but one thing that I would like to note is that it has this, because of a wide side here, it has this more square-like form factor, which is something that I really have come to prefer since I've started using devices like these, because they're simply more ergonomically comfortable to use in any type of a situation. Plus, they look very pretty, at least to my sensibilities. Thickness on the side, as I said, it has a thicker and a thinner side. At the thickest, it's 7.6 millimeters, but as I said, it tapers down from the thicker edge all the way down to here, and then you have a much thinner edge on the other side, which makes it a very nice thing to kind of handle with both hands when you're reading, for example. Kobo platform supports a bunch of formats, which are listed here in the screens, as well as a bunch of languages. So yeah, just pause it and check out if you can find the language or the file format that you're looking for in the list here. During the operations, especially as far as the reader side of things goes, it's never hicking up, it's never kind of lagging behind or anything like that. I think it handles operations very nicely. It's a very well balanced platform. I think they made a very good combo here. Kobo Elipsa comes with an active pen, and mainly because it does not have an EMR and it's not Wacom enabled. So it has an active pen, which is powered by a quadruple A battery that comes in here. Generally speaking, I'm not a fan of active pens, but this one seems to have been balanced and designed in a very good way. The first thing that I'm not a fan of, generally speaking, is that exchangeable battery, mainly because usually they are placed all the way back here and that disturbs the balance of the pen. Not so on the Elipsa. As you've seen, this whole section actually goes away and the battery goes all the way here, almost right smack in the middle. That has a profound effect on the usability of the pen, so it actually rests very comfortably. As you can see, I can balance it out almost right here on the halfway point. So I can just simply grab the pen and it rests very effortlessly in my hand. So this is something that's a very important thing to have, and yeah, not all pens have that. It also comes with 2 buttons. They are pre-programmed, so you cannot change that. So this, the lower one is the highlighter, the upper one is the eraser button, and they have the same function whether you are in a reader or note-taking mode. Then finally, we have the exchangeable nibs. The nibs are kind of hard. I'm not a fan of this feel, and the main thing that I'm not a fan of is this. I don't know if you can hear that, but that thing, yeah, you hear that absolutely constantly when writing. So let me just illustrate this. You hear that absolutely constantly. Now, for some, that may not be a problem at all. For me, it is an irritation. So it's something that negatively affected my writing experience as far as Elipsa goes. I don't like that. Granted, I have felt a similar sound with the regular standard pen on the Supernote A5X. However, that rattling sound is a little bit softer and a little bit thinner. It's not as loud and it's not as intense as here. So yeah, generally not a fan of that kind of clicking noise. Absolutely not a fan of the clicking noise on this pen. So the bad side of the device not having an EMR or a Wacom layer is that you can't just chuck this one away and grab your favorite pen. You are stuck with this pen whether you like it or not. Overall speaking, it's a fantastic build. It's an awesome all-metal build, excellent design, excellent balance, really good. It has specification-wise 4096 levels of pressure sensitivity, which is all great. So yes, it does feel really good in the hand, but unfortunately just the writing sensation for me didn't cut it. So there's nothing wrong per se with the pen, it's just could be a personal preference that it didn't really, it wasn't the fit for me. Now the screen. So we already said it's 10.3 inch, standard resolution, everything like that. The bottom line is that Kobo Elipsa, without a shadow of a doubt, has the best picture quality of any other monochromatic ePaper or e-ink device that I have tested. As you can see, the images are absolutely fantastic as far as I am concerned. My sensibilities and my taste, this just looks really wonderful. Now, one of the main things is something that I've already talked about in my Re-Inkstone R1 video, where I was comparing the color banding that we could see on Note Air and the R1 on the example videos that they've shown at least, and the lack of the same color banding. As you can see, there is no color banding here at all, and the Kobo Elipsa is able to really transform photographs into almost paper-like photographs. I have not seen that before. It's something that leaves a very big impression on me. At least the image quality of the Elipsa is outstanding. Now, while I was actually doing that Re-Inkstone R1 video, I was also comparing the performance of the Elipsa with the Note Air when flipping pages of the exact same document. And what was very interesting is that when you flip pages, you have those two measurements, shall we say. You have the first performance is how quickly is the device or the CPU able to read, store, and prepare the next page for displaying. And naturally, Note Air is of course faster in that one because it has twice as many cores and yeah, it's just more powerful. However, the refresh speed of the screen itself, once the image is loaded, it's actually considerably faster on the Kobo Elipsa. So not only does it have better picture quality and no color banding, but it also has faster refresh rates on the full image refresh. So much is that refresh speed faster that the actual cumulative amount of time that's needed for a device to flip a page, Kobo Elipsa is a little bit faster than the Note Air. So that's the balance that I was talking about. Even though Kobo Elipsa has only 4-core CPU versus the 8 cores on the Note Air, the actual page flipping performance is faster. Now, there have been some mentions by some reviews and some comments as well. Does the screen get scratched? Because one review video, a short one, he said, mentioned very briefly that the screen got scratched just by using it normally. I think that's the inexperience of the user, because what actually most of the time what happens is that when you actually have a rough surface like Kobo Elipsa has, because it has a screen protector on it to give it a paper feel, when you write on top of it with a plastic nib, that rough surface is like it has a certain grit. So it is like a sandpaper that's eating away slowly at that tip. So you are not scratching the screen, first of all, because it has a screen protector. Second of all, you are eating away the pencil, and what you're seeing most likelihood, I'll be testing that right now because I'm not sure, but I can see some markings here, but yeah, we'll see. But what I'm pretty sure is what you're seeing is, like on any other device, leftover marks of the nib that has been eaten away as you've been writing, because it's a bit of a sandpaper. So let's check it out. All right, so it's very difficult to see, but right around here, you should see some markings, right? So let's focus on this one here. What I usually do is I just grab a regular microfiber cloth that I use for cleaning my glasses. So you see some markings here that are left over. Now, if I am correct, a simple wipe without too much pressure. Let's just get it to sleep until I am finished with this. And this is a dry cloth, right? So no detergents, no solvents, no nothing. If there's a bigger mark, just use a little bit of your finger, again, dry finger, and then just continue wiping. And after the wipe, as you can see, all of the markings are gone. So it's simply the residue of the pen nib on the rough surface of the screen. So in conclusion, no, you are not scratching the screen. Well, in fact, you wouldn't be able to scratch the screen because you have a screen protector, but you're not even scratching the screen protector. You're eating away the nib, which is a normal process on paper-like surfaces like these. All right, so now let's dive into the software side of things and the environment of the Kobo Elipsa. Well, when you start it out, it's a very standard affair if you've ever used a Kobo device. If not, you are welcomed by the recent documents or books that you've used. On the top panel, you have your notifications bar, so you have your time, brightness control. Just, as you can see, only intensity is able to control, but yeah, and it can get very, very bright and actually very, very dim. So you have a full range of control, and I do actually like that quite a bit. But yeah, I wish there was a color control as well, so that we had that amber light, because it would have been a little bit more comfortable. That's something that I most definitely am missing. Then we have Wi-Fi, battery status, and this little icon here is your synchronization icon. So this icon you tap on when you have your Dropbox and Pocket accounts set up, and then it actually goes through all of that. And not only the Dropbox and Pocket, but it actually updates the system as well. And it just works in components. So it updates individual components when each component is ready. And I really like that. That's a very modern approach to this kind of a thing. When you're all synced up, you will have the little check mark in the synchronization thingy so that you know that you are all good to go. And finally, you have the search icons so that you can search your titles in the Kobo store, my books, articles, current read, and annotations as well. So if you make some annotations in books, because unfortunately you cannot make them in documents, what the hell? But yeah, you can search your annotations through the global search bar as well, which is very, very useful. On the bottom, we have our modes. So you have default home, then you have your library or my books, which is where your books are. Then you have your notebooks. You have discover, which is your basically Kobo store, I would guess. And then you also have the more option where you will find Dropbox, Pocket or my articles, activity summary. Then you have some beta features and more settings and help. In more settings, you have your general system related settings. So yeah, something that is fairly straightforward. And that's pretty much it. So this is not a very complicated environment, and it's a very easy environment to jump into. So let's start with the library and the My Books section. My Books section is a very straightforward affair. Again, it encompasses both your EPUBs and documents. So electronic books and documents will all be in here. They will all be sorted immediately into your library, and there's a little bit of a, chaos kind of going on because I like folders, right? So I like to have a folder structure in a situation like this, which is not something that I currently have. They will just simply all appear and that's it. However, you do have something called collections. And if you go into a collection, then, ooh, looky here, I already have two collections. I have my books, and then I can go into my books, and then I have my books much more contained, much more easier to actually find what I'm looking for. Or in this case, I have only one user manual that's added here, and that's there. So I prefer the ability to sort things out in a very controlled manner. Then while the platform itself is limited, so you don't have folders, you do have collections, and I do appreciate that ability there. What I don't appreciate is the fact that I'm forced to do double work, because I prefer the folder things, and I have a folder structure in my Dropbox, for example. And once that actually gets synchronized with the device, it would have been nice that that folder structure is retained and that I don't have to reorganize everything. Because if I were to import my user manuals, which has 130 documents and over 29 folders and then some subfolders, that would be a huge amount of work that I'm simply forced, for no reason whatsoever, to do yet again. So either an option of just exploring our library via the folder structure, or the ability to automatically create collections and sub-collections from an imported folder structure. Those things would be a welcome change to this environment, and I think it would make it a little bit more streamlined. You're able to filter by reading, unread, purchased, Dropbox, and downloaded, but you're not able to filter by type. So again, all EPUBs and all PDFs and all documents and all text files, everything is just jumbled up together into one thing. So I don't personally understand the lack of the ability to filter by type. However, you do have an option to sort by type. So at least that I can do. So now I can go to sort by file type, and then it sorted it. But then again, I have to guess what is the first thing. So I know, of course, that alphabetically E comes first. So first I'm going to have my EPUBs, and then I'm going to have my PDFs, which is fine. But it again would have been nice if we had at least like a small overlay over the icons that we see here, so that it says EPUB or PDF or text file or something like that. That's not an innovative thing. That's a standard that's being used, and there's a reason why these watermarks are used, because you want to be able to identify what you're looking for at a glance and not just, you know, do a whole lot of searching. So I think that in general, the Kobo library is coming from an e-reader type of an environment. It was meant for books primarily, and books mainly, and occasionally you throw in a document if you really must. And you can feel that. So that's something that you can definitely feel that Elipsa is taking over from its background, and it's not really offering anything drastically new. Now I think that's a little bit of a missed opportunity, simply because this is no longer just an e-reader. So this device is no longer just interested about EPUBs and an occasional document. On the contrary, because of the note-taking abilities with your pen, you are much more likely to do annotations and do writing on documents, which means that the platform itself should take that into consideration. I hope that in coming updates, they actually acknowledge that need and start modernizing the platform itself so that it accommodates for the document use, as well as it does make the use of e-books. Because e-books, they work really, really well, but it's not good enough for documents as far as I'm concerned. Now, don't get me wrong, you will be able to find your way around it. You will be able to find your organization style and all of that kind of stuff. Sure, that's not a problem, but it's just like, it's 2021, and the Kobo Elipsa is entering a very crowded and competitive marketplace. And as such, it needs to pull everything that it has so that it can come out as the most interesting device for a potential buyer. All right, so now let's check out the reader capabilities and functions and how does it seem. Kobo Reader is one of my favorite environments to read ebooks in. Not so much for documents, but for ebooks, I really absolutely love it. It has to do with the simplicity, the balance of things, and just how it all works. I think they managed to strike a really good balance by adding the pen and how it's been incorporated. But first, for those who are not familiar with the Kobo Reader environment, let's just go over the fundamentals and how it actually works. So first things first, you have tap in the middle to access the menu. On the top, you have your notifications bar with the battery status, time, exiting the documents, orientation of the device so that you can choose whether it's going to be using the gyroscope so that you can just flip the device and then it flips to the side, right? So if that's something that you want, it's really efficient at that. So it's a proper gyroscope that's very nicely calibrated. Or if you simply don't want to do that, then you can choose either locking it in portrait or landscape mode. Next to it, you have the ability to adjust the brightness, but you also have the ability to simply on the left side slide up and down, and you will be able to adjust the brightness that way. Really easy and really handy. Next to it, you have the formatting options, which are fairly limited, but you have most of the stuff that you would like, which is a couple of different fonts, which are nicely kind of sorted. Then you have font size, line spacing, margins, and justification. The device itself is really responsive and the range of the font size is huge. So you can go from absolutely ginormous to teeny tiny little. I do love the performance. As you can see, this is a very large document of 6,611 pages currently, and then if I just move it like there, in a blink of an eye, we're at 950 pages. So unlike Remarkable 2, for example, it's a perfectly capable EPUB reader, and it's really snappy and it just feels good. It feels at home when it's handling EPUBs. Next to it, you have reading statistics, if that's something that you're interested in. And then we have settings for the reader itself, which is the important one. And here we have a couple of options that are worth taking a look. So we have the ability to format our header and footer, and you can change between options of pages left in chapter, percent of the chapter read, time remaining in chapter, or completely off. Similarly, for the footer, we have pages left in book, percent left book read, time remaining book, and off. Then we have show progress book bar. So it's this one down here, which is also really handy because it can just jump between chapters here. So you can really navigate between pages or jump to previous next chapter of the document. Incidentally, this is also where you access your table of contents. And once you access the table of contents, you also have the tab for annotations, if you have any annotations in a document. You are also able to directly access your annotations by using that button. You come to the same place. It's just simply, you go to the same place. This is just annotations tab, table of contents tab, shortcuts. That's it, nothing more. And then finally, you have the search, which can search both the document or the annotations if the document contains them. Back into settings, we also have the option to adjust when the device will refresh, fully refresh the screen. So you can refresh the screen every chapter or every 1 to 10 pages incrementally. Then you can have the orientation as well as the same function as you have on the shortcut there. Show Adobe EPUB page numbers. Then you have the dark mode. And the dark mode is really cool, but depending on an EPUB that you have, you may run into some incompatibilities like this. Now, it is able to handle images very nicely, and it actually just inverts them. So let me show you that. So this is what I mean when I say inverted images. So they still show very nicely, but they are, yeah, simply inverted. So perfectly readable, and it just functions kind of as you would expect it in the dark mode as well. Finally, at the bottom, you have the on-screen controls, which allows you to adjust where the touch-sensitive area is for the menu, previous, next page, etc. And there are a couple of presets that you can choose from, or 4 of them. So the standard one is divided into thirds. So we have left third for going back, middle third for the menu, and the right third for going forward. Now this can also be rearranged in these kind of configurations, which is a good thing. And then you also have the option that I showed, the swiping on the left side for adjusting the brightness. You can turn that on or off according to your preference. And finally, we have also the ability to decide, do we use tapping and swiping or swiping only for navigating our pages. Next to the settings gear icon, we also have just extended options, and those are write a review for the book that you're reading, view details of the book, dictionary, and hints and tips for the reader, which are displayed the very first time you actually access the document. You can redisplay them again with the use of hints and tips. So these are the options of the e-reader or handling EPUBs on the Kobo Elipsa. Now, how do you navigate? Well, so this was the middle tab, right? The option. Well, the same way, we can actually tap on the left side to go one page back, or we can tap on the right side to go one page forward. You can also swipe to go page forward or page back, pretty much the same way. The device, as you can see, is really responsive, and it's really good at actually getting the gestures right. In the EPUBs, we do not have a pinch to zoom, so if you want to change the formatting, you have to go into settings and the formatting options. You do have the option of tapping the upper right corner to get an earmark, which is automatically your bookmark. Then finally, we have a long press and a contextual menus. So if you long press a word, a single word will be selected, and it will automatically fire up the dictionary, and it will show you some options that you can highlight it, add a note, which would be an annotation, or search the word that's selected, search the document for that word, or actually I think you can search more, yeah, in book, Wikipedia, or Google. Once a word is selected, you will have two handles here, and then you can simply drag the handle and expand the selection this way. And once you have that, then you can actually add a note. And adding a note, no, you cannot write on it, you have to type in it to actually add a note. Once you've added a note, it's added, it's underlined, and that's an indication that there is a note in the highlight as well, or basically it's in an annotation. The pen is extremely nice in the e-reader for marking up the document, because you remember those two buttons that we talked about? Well, this one, the bottom one, is the highlighting mode. So all you do is you press and hold the highlighting mode, and then I can just start from here all the way to here, and I've highlighted a section in my book. Similarly, I can hold the button and tap on the highlighted section to get my options. So I can remove a highlight. I don't have to do touch gesticulation or anything like that. I can actually handle all of this with my pen. So if I wanted to add an annotation, I can just add a note, and then I can actually type away with my pen if I want, and then go forward. So I think that the implementation functionality of the pen into the e-reader side of things is really good. And for those who may have had any issues, I don't know why, but maybe have had some issues with the handles and how to mark things, I think that this basically just eliminates that problem altogether. So it's really good. Speaking of the pen, that's one of the whole points, because we can add annotations here, right? So that's kind of cool. And you press the other button and it works as an eraser. So you can write, or you can press the button and erase, and you can press the first button to highlight. Can you delete the highlight with the eraser? No. So you have to use the highlighter as to access highlighter functions. So this means that you can underline normally as you would, or mark a section here, and then add a note here, right? So those things are all good, but the options are very limited. First of all, there are no brush controls. So this is what you have. This currently you just have the one pen, the one pen type, the one pen size, and one pen color. That's it at the moment. And the same thing goes for the eraser. You only have the button to erase this. So if you don't have a pen to erase this, how do you erase it? I don't know. I don't know if you can, because I haven't found a function anywhere to basically clear a page or something like that. Because if I tap on this, or a long tap on this, it's still going into the words. It's ignoring the written stuff. So yeah, that's something to kind of keep in mind. All of the written stuff is basically treated as an annotation, and you will always find it in the annotations. And you can see that while you're looking over your annotated content of the book, you will see a snapshot that basically shows what you've written and what you've circled around. Now, let's say that we have a situation that I have underlined these lines here, and that now you've noticed the problem that I'm going to be talking about. So yeah, and then I write a arrow and say my note, right? So that's my note. What happens when we go into the landscape mode? Seemingly my annotations have disappeared. However, when I put it back, there they are again. Again, let's do a test. What happens when I change the formatting to my annotations? Let's make smaller thingy. My annotations are gone, but not really. So the way they're dealing with this is, you see this markup section here, that it actually shows the section here, and it says it has a scribble icon. So if you tap on this, it will expose the original annotation that was made. So the changes in formatting are handled in this way. This is a very simple but effective way to do it. Instead of trying to refit and rescale and all that kind of stuff, which is definitely possible, but I'm absolutely certain that that stuff would eat away performance like mad, because it will need to recalculate strokes and vectors and all that kind of stuff. While some people may not like this, I actually do like it. I think it's an elegant, simple, and effective solution that just works. And yes, when you do return to your normal formatting, the annotations are back as well. One final thing that I need to mention when we're talking about this is, and it's obviously a problem, is the what happens to these notes, all of your annotations that you've done after you reset a device, for example. So all of the annotations that you make on EPUBs, we're just talking about EPUBs, we're covering PDFs next, but on EPUBs, because most of them have digital protection or DRM, this means that you cannot alter the document directly. Also, if you rent a book from Overdrive, for example, and you do all of the markups, by the time you return the book, those markups are gone. So I think that this is effectively a problem, because you mark up all of your books, and let's say you even own a book. You mark it up, and unfortunately something happens to the device that you have to do factory reset. Once you've done your factory reset, all of those markups are gone. And Kobo acknowledges that this is definitely a problem, and they are actively working on a solution for this. Now, some of you say, well, just export it as a PDF. Legally, you cannot do that. So you have to find a way to store your annotations as a file that can be associated or reassociated. I assume that's what they're working on, that you can reassociate your notes that are saved in a separate file and reassociate them with your document, so that once you get your book back, the file that has your notes stored will actually recognize, oh, is this the book of that license, of that blah, 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 blah. Yes, you are. Okay, cool. And then it works. The same thing could work for Overdrive as well. It's like, check the ID of the book, check the date of the book, brrr, okay, matches, boom, and then it works. Hopefully that's something that they're working on, because that's definitely an option that you can do, because all of the ideas and the publishers and all that kind of stuff is there. So the file that stores all of your annotations and drawings and everything, it can also store the association to the EPUB that it belongs to, so that it can check up and then see, hey, here's my parent book, and then just goes, hugs it, and gives you a nice experience like this. Hopefully that's something that you'll do. All right, so now let's take a look at the document side of things, or how does the reader perform, and what can and what can't it do with PDFs primarily. So here I have a PDF document, and first and foremost, I want you to see, yeah, there's an image here. So you have the ability, of course, to navigate in the same way that you can on a document. So that actually works exactly the same, which is a good thing. Middle tap opens up the options, all the same things that we've seen before. And again, the bookmarking, yes, of course you can bookmark pages on the document, so that is good. And you also have pinch to zoom. Now, once you enter pinch to zoom state, as you can see, that's the performance that it has. Once you're in a pinch to zoom state, one finger is the motion that actually allows you to move around. And this is how the performance is. And the quality is here. So it doesn't have a lot of ghosting, but then again, I don't think this is in an A2 mode, so it's able to do minimal amount of ghosting. And once you release it, does it refresh? Yes, it does. Cleans it up and it looks all nice. Same like this, you can just zoom out and you're done. Can you navigate in a zoomed state? I haven't tried, so let's try. So I've zoomed in and just press on the next page. Yes, and retains the zoomed level. So let's try that out on a different document that actually needs a zoom. Let's see if I have it. Hey, let's use the search function. Why not? It's called Nord. 0 results. Okay, maybe it's not called Nord. Maybe it's called G2. Yes, it's called G2. Okay, cool. So the search works. So this one I know would benefit from a little bit of a zoom, and then we can just kind of zoom in to a level that I am comfortable with. Let's see how fine can we do it. Yeah, let's do like this. There we go. And if this is my zoom state, I should be able to navigate. Okay, well, this one is actually moving side to side. Okay, so now it's in a zoomed state, and if I navigate, it goes back to the corner. Yeah, so it does remember and retain the zoom amount, but unfortunately it doesn't retain the zoom position, which makes it less usable than it would have been, because it's a really good idea to keep the zoom position and the zoom level, because then I can just zoom into a document and navigate to it to get rid of the header and footer and stuff that's maybe not necessary. So hopefully that's something that they'll implement and change. Now, as far as the options and controls go, as I said, navigation is exactly the same. Middle tap, exactly the same. You have the differences in the top options are, of course, you can have landscape and portrait mode a little bit later on that one. Brightness, settings. This one here is basically your zoom control. So you can also manually zoom like this, should you choose to do so, but it's exactly the same type of functionality, pinch to zoom or there. Then you have your settings, and the settings are pretty much identical like on the EPUB. So you have your header, footer, progress bar, refresh screen, all of the stuff, dark mode as well. So dark mode is an important one because you can have a dark mode on a PDF. And again, it's able to invert the images so that they are noticeable and that you can actually use them in a document while it's inverted. And finally, you have also the same controls for presets for navigation, swipe to adjust brightness, and page forward tapping or swiping. And the extra options are also the same: view details, dictionary, and hints and tips. One of the things that I really do admire how it works or how the Kobo handles PDF documents is the landscape option, because check this out. So I just turn it here, it automatically formats it here, and then when I press page next, it goes down a page and then goes to the next page, down a page, next page. This is so simple, so elegant, and if I want to, I simply turn around and I'm back. There is a reason why there are no formatting options, because you don't need them. So if you implement something as good as this, and if your PDF document is not meant for portrait mode, we'll just flip it over to a landscape format and the device does everything for you. This is probably the most favorite way of handling the formatting of the documents on any of the e-ink devices, including books, which has far more options, but it's much more difficult to get to this option, and you certainly can't just flip it to the side and continue working. So this is something that's really, really impressive and something that I like quite a lot. And as you can see, the performance is really, really good. And these are high resolution images. So it's very easily able to kind of do this. Now, what happens if you're zoomed in and you move around? It goes back into the landscape mode again. So very, very good way of handling formatting of the PDF documents automatically. The only thing that I'm missing is that locking of the position when you have a zoomed state, when you flip a page. If they add that, then I think you're pretty much covered for all situations that you may envision. So one thing that I haven't checked was in landscape format. If I zoom in, and I go to next page, what happens? The same thing. Kobo supports hyperlinks in PDFs, of course. So this is, for example, all hyperlinked in a document here. And if I press on one of them, it will automatically take me there. Now, it does have one option that I absolutely love. So let's say that I've been here, but I want to come back to the place where I got from. All I need to do is tap in the middle, and you'll see these dots here in the navigation panel. So those are my locations, my last two locations. If I just tap on it, it will return me where I came from. And then I can just go to another one here, and it just goes there. And you can see that it interactively changes. So you have a little bit of a history down here where you were in the document. I haven't tested out and noticed if it's more than 3 or last 2 spots. I believe it's just last 2 spots, but even so, it's a really, really cool thing to have because it makes navigation in complicated documents a breeze, and you can just simply, always come back to where you came from, which is very, very handy. Now, here's where things get to be a little weird and, kind of head scratchy. So all of the stuff and functionality that we had so far on the Kobo, as far as the PDF reader side of things, was really, really good. And now we come to the point where I long press a word and it will give me a search. So I can do a dictionary search of a word, but you'll see a very distinct lack of highlighting and handles for highlighting. And the reason for that is that inexplicably, you cannot make annotations in PDF documents the same way that you can do on EPUBs. Why? I will never understand. So this is something that I hope that they will change, because this is a huge kind of a thing. Like, why wouldn't it be there? It just needs to be. I mean, the whole functionality is exactly the same. Just place it there and treat it as annotations. I mean, and you still have the same table of contents and annotations. So I really can't see a single reason why we do not have the same treatment of words and same ability to highlight and create annotations in PDF documents as well. Instead, you are you have to resort to using the highlight button, and when you do, you again, the palm rejection. That's the next one. And as you can see, the palm rejection is definitely a problematic thing. So this is something that you will experience. The palm rejection currently is not calibrated properly, and more often than not, it will jump from place to place in documents and in notebooks. And to make things even worse, there is no option to change that. So what's happening is that if I do this, that sometimes you trigger the next page with your palms. So sometimes it recognizes, sometimes it doesn't. The only thing that I've so far found that actually helps is to actually go into settings and then make sure that page forward and back is swiping only. Then the amount of accidental swipes is you get it down to a minimum. Now your taps won't work, right? So left and right won't work, and the theory is that accidental palm presses will not be misinterpreted as page, next, or previous or forward. But your flipping, you know, pages works. So that would be my advice to kind of how to deal with the accidental presses. Now the highlighting, back to highlighting mode. So all you can do is press the button on your pen and highlight it like this, but it doesn't conform to the words or anything like that. It's just a highlighter brush, nothing more, nothing less. Same as in the EPUBs, you are able to, you know, underline, write stuff, mark up things, and do all of the stuff that you want, but the same limitations still apply. So you do not have brush control, you do not have brush size, brush color, or anything like that. This is it, this is what you get, and you have no say in it. The eraser should work, but it's sketchy, because as you can see, I clearly press, there we go, now it works. So this is another thing with the active styluses. They just sometimes are a little bit more difficult to control than the regular passive styluses. So anyway, this is how it actually works, and these are the things that you can and cannot do in PDFs. One thing that's also important to note is that once you have highlighted and annotated your document, it's a very important thing to do to exit the document and allow the device to actually synchronize, because as you can see, it now has an arrow and it's actually now updating, and yeah, it's now synchronized. So every time you exit from the document, if it needs to synchronize and basically kind of back up, so to speak. And if it's all hooked up to the Dropbox, then that synchronization will automatically reflect. So anything that you do here on the device will automatically be sent out to the document on your Dropbox. So you don't have to export, you don't have to do anything. If you do use Dropbox integration, it's absolutely perfect. You just do what you do here, make sure that it's synced, and all the changes that you did will reflect on the Dropbox. So now that's a perfect segue to check out how do these documents look like when they are exported, and what do the markups look like on a computer once they are exported from the device. All right, so here we have all of the exported stuff. I exported basic notebooks, advanced notebooks, and all that stuff, but yeah, let's just check out the exported document, the PDF document that we marked up. So this is directly downloaded from the Dropbox. And just open up, and here are the annotations or the markups that we did, and you can clearly see yeah, that the highlighter is not optimized. So the highlighter brush size is really large, so much so that it just kind of overcrowds everything. So this is something that most definitely needs to be adjusted, and yeah, if I just move it around, it just kind of breaks. Furthermore, we can see on the lines that it's not anti-aliased, not such a big problem, but not as big of a problem as the one on the highlighter for sure. And I think I had another kind of a note here. Yeah, it's still there. So let's see a little bit with the words. How do the words translate? Okay, and here you can see that the interpretation of the vectors is really not that sophisticated. So you have this super shaky interpretation of the written lines, which are definitely not like that on the device. But yeah, at least they export as vectors. So they are not rasterized, which is a good thing. One of the other things or other the resources that you can use on Kobo platform where to get your books is to use the overdrive to actually get the books from the overdrive, but you can also use the Pocket platform. But again, here there's a little bit of a problem because I registered an account and I most definitely did add stuff to the Pocket account, and it does show on my Pocket account on the desktop. One of them is a website, the other one is a PDF, but they just don't show here no matter how much I sync. So I can sync again and sync again or refresh as much as I want, but the added articles never arrived to the device itself. I checked my Pocket account on the desktop and it lists Kobo device as a synced service or linked service. So everything seems to be fine and it should be working, but unfortunately at the moment, for me at least, it's not working. However, in theory, it's something that should allow you to simply send an article, a PDF, or anything on the web via Pocket directly to your device, and then once you're back to your device, then you just go here to my articles and they should show up here. Now, yeah, hopefully that gets fixed too.